Good morning.
Morning, Joe. How are you today?
Oh, good man, good.
Been a little while. We've For everybody who's listening to this one, we're gonna be catching back up to our regular schedule on podcast weekly. We've been a lot of stuff going on, and for each of us, and
Mm-hmm.
things have been a little crazy for him, and things are not so crazy for me. But that's all right.
Yeah.
We're also getting this audio all worked out. So the last podcast was the first time we recorded separate audios. This is gonna be the first time we're gonna do it with Joe having headphones, so the audio quality should be really good. Still would love to hear you guys' feedback. But welcome to Sunday morning coffee with Tier Logic.
Hell yeah. Having issues here with my mic.
Should be a max spin out on that. Keep going. I think you might just have to.
I feel like those videos. Oh, there it is. It's like I feel like those videos where it was like you got like a brand new helper, like a crane operator or whatever. He's like, "Hey man, go ahead,
Yeah.
tighten that hook."
Yeah,
That's
100%.
That's what that just made me think of. Okay, so I know you.
I feel like I should copy your mic. Like I feel like when people are watching this, we should just like should be the same. But I need to mimic you from the last video where it's like this. So what we talked about last time was that every time that Joe was gonna talk,
No, I think you should. I think you should exactly leave it right where it was.
no, I will. I'll put it back. But so the funny thing about last time was that
Made my eyes water.
is that Joe. I told Joe, I said, "Hey man, I know you can't sit still, and that's fine. That's totally fine. I get that. Like we talked for quite a while on here, but you got to keep the mic like close to your face, so like you can pick up the audio." And so what he did in response is, I won't talk, but I'll visualize it just because if you guys didn't watch the video and you're watching this one, he did this. He like kept it as an attachment to his hand, which is great. I mean, the audio quality sounded great. But it was just so funny because like I was happy with how quickly he adapted. He's like, "Well, I'm not gonna stop moving, so I'm just gonna grab my mic and make sure this boom arm works 100 well." What is that for?
This is my. I use this as my hammer in my house to hang shit up. But this is also my mic grabber, so I don't have to.
Okay.
Almost had a catastrophic failure right there. Hang on.
Did it almost come out of the thing?
Yeah, like where it's like clipped onto the desk.
Almost came off.
It was like hanging on by a thread. It's all right.
Perfect.
It's all
Hey,
right.
but the plus side for this week is mic's plugged in, so doing
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Righty tighty. Got it.
Yeah, oh yeah, right. Hey, my dog knocks mine all the time. Like Bear will come in here and knock it, and I'm afraid that it's gonna like loosen one time, and I'm just gonna go to move it, and the whole thing's just gonna collapse.
That's where I was.
Even though it's
That's where I was at just right now. As it was like, if that's the disc. It was like hanging on right here.
oh god.
I want to hang something on it, like hang my headphones on it or something.
Yeah, you can.
That little deal. But
As long as it's tight, you can do it.
my wife's dog is an asshole, so
Yes, she is. But she's cute.
yeah. So I don't want to do that. Okay. Um. So, for anybody listening to this, you don't know, I decided to pick up some overtime this week too. So I worked Thursday day, Thursday night, uh, rest period till early Friday afternoon, and then worked Friday afternoon into Friday night, and then came to this podcast. So I did not spend a whole lot of time looking things up for this to let you know, Garrett.
Okay, that's fine. I thought you didn't work on Friday. I thought you had all day rest period.
Saturday.
Oh, Saturday was your all day rest period.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, we hit 2 a.m.
Yeah, that's not your normal day.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. I remember you calling
Yeah,
me.
Sunday, Mondays now.
So the funny thing about I'll say this from my standpoint while you're piecing together whatever you want to talk about is when you have a co-host for a stream, it's always funny because especially when you live in two different places and you have two completely separate jobs, it's always interesting to try and figure out what days you're going to be on Twitch together, what days you're doing a lot of solo stuff. So for anybody who's listening to this, I have been laid off for about 2 weeks now, which is that's part of the gig of what I signed up for. I understand that it's slow. It's the mud season here in Illinois. It's just that is the way it is. Um, but it's definitely different because I branched out, and this is just a little solo plug, I guess. But I definitely started doing some day streams, which I was amazed at how many people actually tune in on their lunch break. So what I did for anybody who's listening for that part of this
Really?
is that yeah, I did quite a bit of what day streams for solos because normally I have you to bank on for a lot of my extra content. Like I don't have the problem we don't have the problem of on our channel of having a lot of dead air. Like there's always
Right.
a conversation going on between us. So
Right, right, right.
it makes for really easy content for somebody who pops in and is in chat and it might be nervous to type in because I'm not saying anything and they don't want to be the only one in the room with like their hand raised like you were in school, kind of deal. I don't know why it's a thing, but still people think that. But during the day, I figured out pretty quick that it didn't really matter what I streamed, as long as I started around 11 and gave myself plenty of time to get going. And right, because the different time zones, people would funnel in anywhere from like 11 to
Mm.
I'd have people coming in on lunch at like 1 or they took a late lunch and then on their lunch break they sit there and watch Twitch streams because that's I
Really?
mean one they enjoy it or they're like hey I want to talk to this person, it's my lunch break and I'm like stuck in a truck delivering something or whatever.
Hmm.
But yeah, I saw a huge uptick and now it would vary too, like it'd be some days it'd be like 4 people, but a lot of days I mean hell one day on the lunch break I had like 15 people in there. I mean it was kind of interesting. And then you go back to your nighttime stream mode where you're running your crew, but at the same time, what I'm getting at there is streaming with somebody else and streaming by yourself is a huge difference. And I have a lot more respect for people who just do this solo. Like, I understand it's not my full time job. I enjoy my full time job, but for the people who try and stream by themselves with nobody else
Oh yeah.
on their stream, more power to them because that is not. I used to think like, okay, yeah, I could probably stream solo, but I always had the luxury of you being there, so it made it a lot easier on me.
Right,
But
right.
now looking into it from the standpoint of, oh, I'm the only one that's making anything happen here. Like I have to make all the audio work. I have to make. I mean,
This is what I
all the
want.
technical stuff I got, but I mean the talking to people and getting stuff working. The way I went around that is so. Main game we've been playing a lot lately is called Sea of Thieves, and what I did was I found some pirate music to play in the background, so it basically filled the dead air, and it didn't hit for a DMCA strike. So basically, the whole time I'm playing, there's music going on in the background, and it can sometimes the music times out perfect to like sync up with what's going on in the game, so it can be like a super intense thing. I don't plan it; I just hit play and it shuffles. But I mean, other times it just gives people that feel for it's a pirate game, so there's pirate music playing, and or there's sea shanties being sung in the background. It's just I had to get creative because I didn't have my co-host there to keep a conversation going, which is fine. He's got a job. I mean, he's got to do those kind of things, but it was just something interesting I learned about the streaming world as far as
Right.
if you're a solo streamer, that is definitely something that's a lot more difficult than I thought.
Yeah, this whole streaming thing is just bananas to me, man. Because like we've always talked about doing some streaming where we're like, hey, let's do a stream, man. Let's uh let's put videos out on the internet for people to watch, and we never really did anything with it until what was it?
6 months ago, about
Were you laid off then when you got this?
yeah. First time I laid off, I was laid off for a day, and we did this. We like took off. We're like, oh, lay off. That's our shot. That's our
See, that-
sign. We're gonna do it.
That's how I know Garrett's been like really. It's like Garrett and I always got shit planned, right? Always thinking about shit. But that's how I know he's been like really seriously thinking about it. Is if he just goes for it at the first opportunity. He's like a racehorse that doesn't know when the gate's gonna open, and so like the horse next to him kicked the door and it opened just a little bit, and so he ran full speed through it, and he just squeezed himself down because he was laid off for a day and decided we're gonna be streamers. Well, he's gonna be a streamer and I'll be a co-host.
Right. And the other thing too is so this is the part that drives me bananas about it. Is so you can make all the videos you want, and you can make content videos. You can make original content. You can make long form, short form. We've made it all now. I mean, not all the time, but we have made it for going on. I think about 6 months now because you just hit your 5 month sub, which you subbed the first day I was able to get people. So I mean, we're about 10 days over 6 months of doing this content creation,
Mm.
and the thing that drives me nuts about it, and it's an animal in itself, and I understand that there's a game to play with it too, is you can put in hours. I mean, and I was spending hours on video editing and trying to figure out audio and visual effects and transitions. And I mean, everybody who wants to do this kind of stuff, you have to learn that. I'm not going to tell you there's an easy road. It's not. It's a lot of YouTube, but and trial and error and stuff like that. But the thing that drove me nuts was I made an 8-second video about my getting my wife's oil change because it was snowing outside and I didn't want to do it myself, and it got 45,000 views. The most viewed video I've ever had was a welding video, and it got like, no, I'm sorry, was a video that my wife helped me make about a Christmas present my parents got me. So we put all this content out, and I understand that there's dynamics, and you can look at the market on what people are watching and what they're not, whatever. What
Well, and like,
gets
part of me
Go
thinks
ahead.
that there is no like real thing to it, because you put out videos like for a while you were doing it like every stop, you were doing it like every like day,
Mhm.
and then like it's just crazy. But then there's like, I'm looking this guy up right now.
Yeah, I mean the part so me being laid off, I could have been able. What I was getting at with that is I could have been able to put out more content than I've ever put out in my entire life.
Oh,
Like right now for the last 2 weeks.
there that son bitch is. This is my little fucking buddy. So this is
Oh,
this right here.
Ryan.
No, no, no. This is a guy that I work with, right?
Hmm.
He's one of my head linemen. And he puts out random videos. I think he's got like 15 total videos or something like that. But he's got 50,000 likes, right? Let me find the
Hmm.
video. And all of his videos are in like the low, like 20, 30 views, whatever. He's got a couple that
Hmm.
are up in the hundreds. He's got some pretty funny ones on here too. But where's it at? Here's one with 40,000 views, 135,000 views, 86,000 views, 496,000 views.
Dang.
There's another one on here. Oh, maybe he got rid of it. There was one on here where it was that. Maybe that was it. The 496,000 views. He doesn't really put out anything crazy.
Right.
It's just stupid little skits, and the one that got like almost 500, like half a million views was like the one with some kind of a sound on there where like the guy's talking real tough, and he brings out like
Hmm.
a twisted tea, and then his wife
Yeah.
starts yelling at him, and he puts it away and starts washing the dishes.
Well, see, and that's the thing
It's
too. Is
stupid.
like
It's stupid, but it's funny. But what I'm getting at is like he doesn't post on a schedule. He doesn't.
No.
He doesn't put out like groundbreaking content, but yet he's got a couple videos that were half a million.
Yeah, and that was my thing. Was I did a test. It was right before I got laid off. I didn't know I was gonna get laid off, which is fine. Like I saw things slowing down, but I didn't know I was gonna get laid off. I didn't post anything on social media for a week. Like I didn't put in any new videos on TikTok. I didn't put out any new videos on YouTube, Twitch. All right, Twitch. Yeah, we kept streaming, but I didn't put out any other funneling stuff to our Twitch channel because I wanted to do a test. Because I was wondering, after about 5 months, I was trying to figure out, is all the extra stuff I'm doing actually worth it? What?
I
Didn't set your timer.
yeah. Yep.
But I was trying to figure out if all this extra stuff I was doing was worth it. Because I mean, I was spending my evenings doing that, or we were playing games, and then I was in a rat race to get all this stuff done. And that's not a complaint. That's just the path I chose. But at the end of it, I was like, is this all worth it? Like, am I actually going to keep getting viewers if I don't do this stuff? So I did it for a week. Guess what? Same number of people showed up. Actually, a couple people more showed up.
Right.
And this last week, this is going on 2 weeks. I haven't put any content out, other than like this podcast coming out and us filming this. But I haven't made any short videos. I haven't made anything like that, and our numbers have stayed the same on the channel. Now, that could be attested to this. Is I made the realization again, which I already knew. I just confirmed it. Is like I enjoy my full-time job of being a apprentice welder, or whatever you want to call it, pipe fitter. And this content creation thing is something I do for fun. It's not my job. It's not something I want to do as a job. As far as like, do I enjoy it? Yeah. But do I enjoy welding more? 100%. that because that's what I feel like I'm more meant to do and what I enjoy the most.
Is
But this
welding?
content creation thing, yeah, welding or pipe fitting or like being in construction.
Oh, okay,
Like
okay.
I
Oh,
might
you're
I
you're
may
talking
change.
about you're talking about the trades versus streaming.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I
okay.
love I love streaming, but I had to have the check of the realization that this is a hobby thing that we do.
Yeah.
Now, whenever we get the farm started, this is going to be more of a informational, like here's how we did it kind of thing, and that's basically the groundwork we're laying right now with the Twitch stream is getting us set up for whenever we do the farm and we start doing videos and podcasts talking about that and what's going on there. So it's basically training for that. At the same time, once I came to the conclusion of like, hey, I'm doing this for fun. This should be fun. This shouldn't be like this is not going to be my full time job. It's not what I'm shooting for, even though I'm treating it like a full time job.
Right,
And
right.
I mean, you get kind of you get kind of protective over your community in a sense, where you're like, oh, I have these viewers in here, and they're consistent viewers, and I enjoy them. And it's like once you hit affiliate, you're like, yeah, I like having my viewers. I like the community we got. It's nice. I like the size, and I got more people showing up in my stream than most people on Twitch. So I'm happy with that. Oh, let the light go down.
Hmm.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. For a minute there, I thought you were talking about welding versus pipe fitting,
No.
and I
Sorry.
was like, well, do you, man? But
No.
no, and I think it'll work. It's just we're just laying the groundwork down for going forward with it. I think this podcast is going to become more mainstream
Yeah.
for us than that, like the streaming, the games, and everything like that. Because I was thinking about it the other day. It's like right now, I get on here and play with you, you know, at least once during the week, if not twice, and then usually twice on the weekends or something. And that's because I live down in Texas. It's me and my wife and my two dogs. Occasionally we go hang out with, some of the guys I work with or whatever. But or she plays slow pitch softball. But when we come back, I'll be around where everybody's at. My family, your family, her family, everybody. So I feel like there may be times where it's a less opportune. We're like, hey man, are we streaming today? And I'll be like, oh, I gotta go help my dad. And so I think
Yeah.
the streaming the video games part is slowly going to get, kind of not phased out, but it'll instead of being like that's our main deal and the
Mhm.
podcast is smaller, it's going to be like the podcast becomes bigger and
Oh,
shit like
yeah.
that.
I agree because what's going to happen is whenever for anybody who's following along with this podcast, whenever he moves back, if he gets a job up here or something like that, or whenever him and his wife decide to move back, I mean we're gonna have a room in somebody's house where we do this. Like we're gonna have the video of this will look a lot different. It will look, um, just in my mind, how it's gonna look is like he has a webcam, I have a webcam. Well, there's gonna be one pointed at me and one pointed at him, and with the level of video editing I've gotten to, it's gonna be flip flopping. We're trying to flip flop back and forth, or just a wide pan view of us talking. We'll be in the same room, so that the audio quality will be better, and you'll get more of that. We're in the same room having a conversation feel, kind of like what we're trying to do now with this. But that's definitely going to be more of a focus, and we're going to be putting a lot more energy into this podcast and promoting it for sure.
Right, right. So earlier in the week, you had texted me and you wanted to talk about the power grid some more
Mm-hmm.
because you had read something about how the United States electrical grid is like 9 major cities away from a total blackout.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not. I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, and then you also said something about the electrical grid. Let me look at your text.
I think it was something along the lines of like the electrical grid was built in like the 1960s or whatever, and it's not meant to handle the load that's put on it now. Like it's barely keeping up with the load
So
because
the first thing I'll get into is the total blackout deal. So the United States is split into like 9 regions, right? For power
Mhm.
distribution or for transmission and distribution. For people that don't know, transmission is going to be those big steel towers or big H structures where it's like 2 poles, and then there's like a large cross arm that goes between them, and you got like bundled conductors or whatever, like multiple sets of conductors right next to each other. That's going to be anywhere from, what is it, 795 or 765? I don't know. For those of you that don't know, I'm in distribution. I'm not in transmission. But the highest that we've got voltage on a transmission line is like 795 or 765 kilovolts. So 795,000 or 765,000. I can't remember which one. And then it goes down to like 238,000 or something kilovolts, or 238,000 volts, or 238 kilovolts, whatever, however you want to look at it. And then sub-transmission goes from that down to like your distribution voltages. So where I'm at, our distribution voltages are phase to ground 7,200, phase to phase 12,470. Yeah, that's my boy back there. And we also have 19,934.5. So phase to ground is 19,900 volts, and phase to phase is 34,500 volts. A lot of places use 13.2, so 13,200 phase to phase, and it's like 7620, I think, is phase to ground. You know, so anyway, the United States is split into like 9 different transmission grids. When you're talking about the grid, usually they're talking about transmission. And transmission goes from the generation plant. You know, generation power is made. Oh, I'm blanking out. It's anywhere from like, I think it's like 7,000 volts to 13.8 thousand volts. It's what power is generated at. It comes out of the generation plant, whether that's like, you know, a natural gas plant or a nuclear plant or whatever, which I got something to say about nuclear in a minute. Goes through a substation, steps it up to transmission voltages, sends it down, you know, hundreds of miles or whatever. Then it'll hit another substation, and that'll step it down to the distribution voltages. And that's what we use to power the house, you know. Goes through the transformer. Then that transformer is essentially a small substation. It'll step it down from 72 down to like 120, 240 that goes into your house. Or if you got 3-phase, 120, 208, 240, you know. So the United States is split into like 9 regions, and they're not tied together.
Oh, okay.
So I think that they are tied together in cases of emergency, like if like Texas is in a real bad spot, they can send some load down here. But I don't know for sure if that's true or not. But I know that they're not tied together, because this last week or 2 weeks ago, we had all these issues. You know, I live in Houston. We're in the Texas grid, obviously, and which, by the way, yeah, Texas has its own region. Texas is one of the regions.
Of course it is.
Yeah, well, Florida has its own region also, so that's not really that big of a deal. But
Whatever. Texas has its own.
People here were without power for 3 or 4 days, right? Like I was without power for 3.5 days. There's people that live like 40 minutes east of me, and work for Centerpoint and work at the same company, you know, and they work in Baytown at the same center as me. But they're technically in the power grid that feeds part of Louisiana. Oh. And they never lost power. So what I don't know was like, is that grid, well, that the Louisiana grid, what I'm looking at a map right now, it includes like North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, all those places, and into Louisiana and shit. So they never lost power. So could they have shifted some megawatts over here and helped us out? Maybe, but I'm not 100% sure if they're tied together. So the whole thing is like we're 9 major cities away from a total blackout, I think is false. I don't know. I didn't read what you read or anything, but I think it's false, because we were having huge blackout issues. Or I did read that we were 4 minutes and 37 seconds away from a total blackout in Texas. You know, because
Oh, okay.
there was still power out there or something.
Yeah,
But
I think what the article was saying was like, if they are or if they're not interconnected, I think what I think the article was getting more at was like if somebody wanted to take out the government, like if you take out electricity, most of this is not this is a generalization. If you take out electricity, most Americans would be screwed.
oh,
And so,
okay, okay. I think I know. I just put this together. I think in the last podcast I got into what causes a cascading blackout, so I'm not going to go back into it.
yes, if you want to check that out, there will be a link in the corner over here, and also I will link all the other podcast episodes down below.
So if you were to cause a blackout that feeds Houston, you know, say that like there's several, you know, this is just hypothetical. Say there's one giant power plant that feeds Houston, and you were to go in there and sabotage that one power plant, then all that load gets shed to the next one, right? And then you would cause a cascading blackout in the region that Houston of Texas, right? So if you did that in all 9 regions, then you would cause a cascading 9 separate cascading blackouts in the entirety of the United States. So it's not talking about a cascading blackout that goes across the U.S. like one. It's talking about 9 separate blackouts. So that does make sense. That I do agree with.
Because what it was getting at too is go ahead.
The well, it's not gonna happen. I can't remember their name. Department of Natural Resources. No, not DNR. Maybe it is DNR. I don't know. All I can say is don't try to break into a power plant. They they will kill you dead. They do not play around. I can guarantee you that 100%. So I've watched I used to watch like those sniper competitions, and they would bring like the SEAL teams out there. They'd bring SWAT, the Texas Rangers, and whatever. And they do like sniper competitions. Well, the Department of Energy would always be out there, and those guys were always in like the top 3. They may not have won, but they were always in the top 3. And top 3 out of some bad motherfuckers are some bad motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? But,
Yeah.
So if you were able to sabotage major generation plants enough to cause a blackout in each region, then yes, that could happen.
And so I agree with you on that because we do work occasionally down at Clinton nuclear power plant.
Oh yeah,
And
nuclear.
if you touch the wrong door, they tell you, they're like, don't move, stay there. Guys with guns will show up. You tell them what happened, show them your badge, and say, I hit the wrong door.
Yeah, I'm
And he's
sorry,
like,
sir. It will not happen again. I'm
do
stupid.
not move.
Yeah.
Do not move. Do not run. Just put your hands up and do what they say because they will kill you without a second thought.
Yeah,
Because
they know.
I mean, that's the biggest threat to. That was one of the things that I think this guy in this video. The guy in the video is an idiot. I'm just gonna say that flat out. Like I've watched some of his other videos. He's an idiot. It's just it got my thoughts provoked on like, is that possible? Oh yeah, there's Jurassic Park over there.
Yeah. But yeah, I know. So big ifs. If you were able to get into a power plant, and if you were able to sabotage it, and if you were able to, that power plant was big enough that it carried enough load to be shifted to the next one to shut down. Technically, yes. Through 9 separate cascading blackouts, the entire United States power grid is at risk. However,
with badass guys guarding it. Good luck.
Yeah. However, you would need to have. So I don't know how to plan it all out specifically, but you would need to have 9 separate teams or whatever run into these power plants, and they would have to do it simultaneously, because once the first one gets, shut down, where they're like, okay, this was an attack. dude, you better believe the National Guard, everybody's going to be, hands around the world protecting those other plants. You ain't getting in, But
Not even the workers. Like, nope, you're essential. You're not essential. You're essential. You're not essential. Get out of here.
yeah. So
And
then, go ahead.
that's what I was going. No, but your point to nuclear. What was your thing with nuclear?
Okay, so nuclear, and I'm not trying to get political, but they're trying to shut down nuclear power.
Right, which is one of the more clean.
It is the cleanest.
Right.
It is the cleanest energy source. So this right here, this Copenhagen can, if I had, I can't remember what they use, plutonium or whatever. If I had this much would power everything I need and more for the rest of my life.
Right.
And then whenever this is done, I have to get rid of this, but it's just this much. I could power me, and I'm looking at these other houses right here. I could power all, let's just say this little block right here. So all 6 of these houses. Everything we want, anything at all, would power all 6 of our houses for all 6 of these families' lives forever. And the only waste is that whenever it's depleted, which is hundreds of years from now, you have to get rid of that little bit.
Woo.
Yeah, but it's the highest producing and the cleanest energy source we have, and they're trying to shut it down, which drives me nuts.
I'll get slightly political, but not in the fact of like my beliefs, but I'll get political with the fact that this is stupid. Like I'm gonna 100% say my personal belief on this one. This idea of shutting down
I'm not gonna get
energy-
political, but I am.
No, I'm not trashing. Like I'm not picking a side as far as like this is what I believe and this is it. But what I'm saying is, off of the situation at hand, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Like, let's get into the talk on energy. So if you're gonna shut down all of the clean burning things that could actually help the economy, yet you're saying no, we're gonna shut these things down, and then you're gonna put them in a semi and then drive it across the country.
Yeah.
And then you're burning more fossil fuels, and it's like I just need people to have a little bit more brain power.
Yeah.
To see, like, if you're going to shut down nuclear energy, you're an idiot. Like, I don't care who you are. Like, I don't care what the plutonium or how you got to get rid of it is. Just my belief is if that much can power that much for everybody, if we already have these things established and they work just fine,
Yeah.
and they're doing it better than anything else, why the hell are we going to trade it out for something that burns? I'm not into the whole like save the environment, we need to turn everything off, we need to no. I'm a 21st century guy. I like my electronics. Like, the world's been here for a long time, it's going to keep being here after I'm gone. Ooh. But that point being said, is if you're going to blow through all that energy just to keep producing the same amount, why not find the most clean, efficient way to do it instead of being pleasing the environmental lobbyists to try and shut things down because they just don't like it and it doesn't make them feel good? Then that's kind of, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And so working in the energy distribution field now, and I took a environmental science class when I was in college, right before I dropped out the 3rd time.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, like, yep, okay,
so
stuck. I'm good.
By no means am I saying I'm an expert, but this is where I learned about all this shit. Is like, there are a lot of cool alternative energy sources out there, right? Like people coming up with like clean energy, and I'm all for, clean energy. Like if you can find a way to produce just as much electricity, and do it clean, go for it. But don't sacrifice what the world runs on. The world runs on oil. There's nothing that you own that wasn't produced some way out of oil. Whether it's as simple as the power that was at the plant that produced like this Yeti cup I've got. The power that they use to power their machines, that came from oil or coal, right? Everything.
By the way, Yeti, come sponsor this podcast.
Yeah, right. That'd be awesome. But I'm all for clean energy. I think it's a great idea. I think that it's still a lot of years away from being where it needs to be. So a massive shutdown on all oil is a bad idea. And I read something the other day about like windmills. It's like, yeah,
Oh,
the windmills are cool. The windmills like produce energy, whatever. I get it. I get it. I do. Garrett and I, where we're from, there's a massive. It's the California Ridge wind farm. It's massive. It's huge. It's great. It produces.
huge.
Yeah, it produces a lot of energy. But over the life of that windmill, it will never produce as much energy as it took to make it. Whenever you look at making the materials and getting the materials shipped there, and then the actual time and energy that it took to, construct it, whether we're talking about the diesel engine that ran the crane that put it in the ground,
Yeah.
that windmill will never produce the power that it took to make it. So when we're talking about green energy and going green, I think it's a great idea, but it needs to be something that's going to be beneficial. Where if you're telling me a windmill runs for 10 years and if the first 5 years of its life it's paying off its energy debt, right? So let's say like the first 5 years it pays off like all the energy it took to make it, and then the next 5 years is all free green energy. Sure, I'll stand behind it. I think that's a worthwhile investment. But if
Yeah.
whatever source of green energy you've got will never surpass the amount of energy it took to make it, then what are we doing it for? I don't think it's.
And
But there's
this might,
cool things out there like on the shores of like oceans and shit. They've got these floats that just go up and down with the waves, right? And then on that arm, it's spinning a generator, and it doesn't produce much, but it produces. And then
yeah,
there's other
no.
things where there's like tubes down in the water where it's got like where there's a heavy current, and it's got a blade in there, so the current spins that blade, which spins a generator. That there's all kinds of really cool ideas out there.
Oh,
But
I got some good ones for you.
go ahead.
So this plays into your conspiracy theory shit. Not that you're a conspiracy theorist, but
But I love
like
them.
what
I said,
you
but I
'em.
love them.
So yeah, so we'll go with this one. Ready? So here's the two conspiracy theories that I've heard on this. One, this isn't conspiracy theories; it's just my personal thoughts. Sorry, I messed it up. But the first part is if you take away oil and the pipeline industry from us, we're gonna get it from somewhere else. I don't give a shit what you
Yep.
say. Like you can take it away from us, well, we're the main provider of it for our own country, or you can just shut it down and be like, we're being green. Not really, because we're still gonna get that shit imported. We're still
Right.
gonna be getting it from another country, and we're still gonna be dependent from somebody else for that stuff, right? Now, conspiracy theory time, just for the fun of everybody else getting to hear how Joe's brain tears through things. I don't think that in our lifetime they are actually going to come up with a way to do green energy well. And this is what I've heard from other people. I'm just phrasing it as if I were to say it. Because of the way the oil industry is run, the way it has been run for years, and the way that the government is got its hands in everything, they probably have a solution for green energy that would work wonderfully. But conspiracy theory, it's not going to happen because oil prices are just too good and everybody likes making money.
So I'm not so obtuse that I won't recognize that there is foul play. Where I guarantee you that there has been, groundbreaking ideas that have been buried and covered up by whoever. Like it all goes back to money. Like the whole Jimmy, not what's his name, Jimmy Buffett,
Jimmy Carter?
Warren Buffett.
Oh,
I was like, man, I want to say Morgan Wallen, and I was like, that's not it, dude.
Jimmy Buffett?
Warren Buffett, Jimmy Buffett, they're cousins. I don't know.
Okay, go ahead. His train thing?
He donated millions of dollars to Biden's campaign, and he just pulled like all of his stocks out of Exxon. Not just it. This happened, in the past, and he's got the contract to ship all the oil up to Canada on his railroads.
His trucks.
His trucks and his railroad. It's mainly his railroad.
Yeah.
I read into it. It's mainly his railroad because
Yeah.
it's I can't remember the number. I'm not going to get into numbers.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because it was gonna be the pipeline that
And he
lost him billions.
And one of the first things Biden did was shut down the Keystone Pipeline, which would have lost him millions. So
now we're
know,
getting into some. Yeah, now we're getting into touchy subjects.
so it's
but
like I don't know.
Now I do know that in our lifetime, I don't think this will be solved.
I don't
And I
think it
say,
will either.
and I, this is why I say this. So, and people can get upset or whatnot, but the thing about my children's children, I want to leave for my children's children. My whole thing to that is this: is like, yes, do I want? Yeah, it was
5 generations we're talking about here, guys.
But that's what they talk about all the time with this global warming stuff. Is about 4 to 5 generations later, right?
Right.
So here's my thing, and this is gonna make me sound terrible, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it anyway. 50 years after you're gone, nobody's gonna remember who you were anyway, unless you do some groundbreaking stuff.
Yeah.
So bear with me.
Okay.
I think I will remember my direct family for my whole life. Do I expect my great grandkids to remember anything or know anything about my life? Absolutely not.
All right.
Because do I know anything about my great grandparents' life? Not really.
Yeah.
Have I asked? No. Because that's not how humans work. Unless you're a historian and you just have a huge thing for history.
Right. There's people out there that are big time into like ancestry and shit, and they're
Yeah.
like my dad's told me he's not real big into it, but one of his siblings is, and they've connected like their lineage like to hundreds of people and whatnot. And he's told me stories about like his dad's grandpa, so my grandpa's grandpa. Was that it?
Being that he had
my
he did
grandpa's
something
grandpa
worthy.
or my grandpa's dad. He was just telling me about he was in a prisoner of war camp in the Civil War. You know,
Okay,
so
yeah,
like
that's worth it.
like there's things like that people pay attention to, but if you ask me his name, I have no idea.
Right.
You know, and
so-
like there's people that are real big in all doing all that ancestry stuff, but the majority of people, I agree with you, are not.
Right. And that's something that people, I think, so to tie this into the environment stuff and the family thing here, is like people get so wrapped up in like their lives and being successful and doing this stuff, which is great, and I believe in all that. But if we're going to talk about the part of energy and what the planet's going to be like, not to be rude, but your great grandkids aren't going to know anything about you, and I mean, you might as well live your life the way that is best for your family at the time being. And also, that brings up a good point of like live your life to the best way possible you can for you, because in 50 years after you're gone, nobody's going to remember who you were. So you might as well make it worth it. I mean, that's kind of something I figured out a long time ago. Is like I remember listening to Grandpa talk about his dad, or I think his grandpa, or they didn't live that long back then, but it was just like, okay, that's cool. And it's like, then I went on about my day. Like people are very centered on themselves. So this whole thing of like, oh, we need to do it for our children. Like your children, your kids ain't gonna know, your great grandkids ain't gonna know your name. Like, come on. Like, don't give me that argument.
And I agree with you also on like we'll go back to energy. It's like I agree that in our lifetime we're not going to see total green. And I'll give you an example. You know, I remember when we were in high school, Obama got elected, and then Michelle took over, and her project was like healthy food in schools, right?
Oh my God!
And then you remember our superintendent. This was supposed to be a plan over like years. Our superintendent took all the junk food out, like the pizza and the sodas and stuff like that, got rid of all of it, and implemented all of this healthy food in like a week. And
we almost rioted.
Dude, it went over like a lead balloon. It did not go, and they still aren't, fully healthy food in there. You know, that's just how it is. And so, like, to transition to green energy, I think it's possible. But like you said, I don't think it's going to happen in our lifetime. You can't transition a society that was built on oil and coal to not using an oil and coal over the course of a year, 2 years, 3 years. No, this is going to be generations before you finally like the whole Texas power grid. You know, of course, there's some green energy sources out there, but they're not keeping up. They're not able to produce what we need. It's just not happening. The whole reason why we had this blackout is because the natural gas that fed a lot of these power plants got frozen because Texas is not built to handle the cold. It's just not, And so if a whole like Texas shut down because of an inability to get natural gas, where was the green energy at? There was plenty of wind. You know what I'm saying? There was plenty of sunlight. Why couldn't we run on that? This is my point. It's like it's not gonna happen. You can't just transition like that fast. It's got to be generations. You know what I'm saying?
I'm laughing at what you said, and I'm also laughing at a post from Tim Kennedy. So Tim Kennedy goes, "Yeah, wind energy is real great, but when they were frozen, right? Some of the windmills got frozen. They would. It showed a photo of a guy out there on a boom lift or a crane or something with a flamethrower. It's like, yeah, that green energy is real good, but when you gotta use petroleum-based products to get up there, and petroleum-based products to unthaw it so it'll work. That's a real foolproof plan there. That's why it made me laugh so hard. I was like, because it was just shitting on the idea of like this green energy boom that can sustain us. It can't.
No, it can't.
And I agree with you on this. Like, if the world has been running on oil and gas and power for what, probably 200 years plus,
forever. As long as we have had internal combustion engines, power generation of any kind, we've been running on oil and gas.
So let's say, for the sake of the argument, it's 2021, 300 years.
Okay.
That puts us back to the 1700s, right? That gets us pretty far back, right? I think that if it took us this long to build up the grid to where we are now, it's going to take us just as long, like you're saying, to go the other direction. I wouldn't say the other direction, but to phase in that stuff. I'm not saying it's going to take 300 years because we have like science and shit.
Well, yeah, and like the grid's already established, so if you just take the wires off of there and put it here, like
if only it was that simple.
Right.
I get what you're saying. But I mean, I think that's now if they were to say, hey, this is our 50-year plan to like phase some of this stuff out. Like, okay. Like some of the bigger stuff, sure, I don't give a shit. Do what you want. But don't take away my pickup truck. Like, I'm not going to get an electric truck. It's not going to happen.
It's stupid. It's stupid.
Piss off.
And like all these people, man, there was some lady not that long ago that was real. I saw a video, I think, and she was like all up in arms. She drove a Tesla, and she was like, my car's all electric. You guys are ruining the environment. And I remember watching that just thinking, okay.
Okay.
So you've got like what, 50 hamsters in your basement running on wheels? No, that power coming out of your walls comes from a coal plant.
Yeah, that's the
real green that you're driving a car, And I get it. An electric car doesn't put out emissions, sure, whatever. But
whatever.
The power plant puts out emissions.
Thanks, Al Gore. Anyway, that's a joke, people. It's a joke. No, but I think it's funny how people get so wrapped up in this green energy and they like identify with it. They're like, I'm going green, and it's like, you idiot, you're still using coal. You just they put a new mask on it.
Oh, the other thing too, a lot of the guys I work with were talking about this. Is like we've all kind of toyed with the idea of living off the grid.
Everybody has. I think.
We're just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm tired of it. I want to live off the grid. I don't need internet that bad. I don't need power that bad. Like I could do it. And then we went through all this shit with this ice storm. Dude, I was like, fuck that.
Fuck it. I'm not doing it.
Like, dude, you know how nice it is to freeze your ass off all day and come to a house that's heated and you don't have to build a fire?
There's a reason why technology was made. Just saying.
Although I did read a story the other day, and I don't think it's a true story, but it's like a short story, and it was kind of cool. Two of them actually, same idea. Is there was this lady that lived off the grid, and every morning she had to build a fire so that she could cook her food and everything like that, or create heat in her house. So somebody was talking to him like, wow, why do you do that? And she's like, it's just how I live. And he's like, why don't you, get a job and make money and then, buy things that you need and make more money, and then you don't have to build a fire. And she's like, it seems kind of dumb to do all that just to not build a fire. And then the other one was like, there's this fisherman who would go out and fish, and he would catch a small amount of fish. He would sell a small amount of fish, and he was done fishing by 11 o'clock every day. He'd sell a little fish, keep the fish he needed to feed his family, and then he sat on the beach and smoked his pipe and hung out. And this businessman was like, hey man, well, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm just hanging out. He's like, dude, why don't you do more fishing? And the guy's like, okay, and then what? He's like, oh, dude, then you can catch more fish. You can sell more fish. You can make more money. He's like, okay, and then what? Oh, and then you could buy a bigger boat and you can catch even more fish. And then maybe eventually you could have 2 ships and then you could have a whole fleet. And then what? It's like, oh, and then you can buy, all these things. And then once you have all this money, you can sit out and relax and enjoy the day. And he's like I'm doing right now. And I'm like, it's kind of a story about living in your means, but it's also like, I get the appeal, but
it's a good point.
Yeah, but I
agree.
like having power.
Yeah, no, I think our camping trip last October right before your wedding is always a good recheck for how much I enjoy the amenities of home.
Yeah,
because for those who don't know, we go on a camping trip every fall, and it's something that we did this last fall. And Joe live in Texas, obviously, and he came back, and at the time it was like 20 degrees.
Was it that cold?
It was that cold. It got down to that cold that night because you were in like bibs and a double layer coat or some shit like that.
Oh, it's freezing my ass off.
And then we got up in the morning. He was so cold, he wanted to get as close to the heat source as he could. I'm cooking breakfast.
Everybody knows how that is, man. You're out there at a bonfire, you're standing close. If it's cold out, you get all that heat takes a minute to soak through your layers, and then it stays warm for a second. So I stood close to the fire, and then I stepped away, and it stayed warm. And after a while, I was like, man, my leg is hot, boy. I was like, only my right leg. Like, why is my one leg really hot? I looked down, dude, my whole leg was on fire from my foot up to the back of my knee. And I was like, oh, God.
So I'm cooking breakfast, and all I hear is this buffoon over here just, I looked over, and I'm like, what? And I see he's on fire. So now, mind you, the part that made this difficult is those are the same bib overalls he's had since 16. And just to show our intelligence level, what we used to do when we were 16 is we used to light our pants on fire after we poured gas on our buddy, get our leg lit on fire, and then go kick our buddy. So basically what happened there is that all the fuel load that he's ever had since the time we were 16, which is 12 years of stuff, is now soaked into those bibs that you can't get that stuff out. So he's on fire. He's eating his breakfast. And I push him over to try and put him out. And he held onto his plate and fell over. And so I'm trying to get his leg to go out. And I can't get it to go out. And so I have to pull out a knife and cut off some of the bib overalls or whatever. Meanwhile, I look up, this dude's just sitting there eating his sausage patty I just made. Just going along, carrying on like nothing. He's like, fuck it. And meanwhile, I look around, and we're at this, I think it's called Oak Crest or something like that was the campsite. The whole campsite is covered in dead oak leaves, and he's on fire. And I'm like, this is great. This is exactly what I want in the news. Two adult males light whole forest on fire in winter.
Right, I was just sitting there laughing because, you started putting my leg out, and I was like, man, he's got it. There ain't nothing else I can do. What am I going to do, beat the shit out of my own leg just like he's beating the shit out of my leg? I was like, I can't do anything extra. So I was like, I might as well eat my sausage while I'm here. And then the thought that popped into my mind when I also noticed all the leaves was, only you can prevent forest fires. That's what popped into my head.
I'm like, oh, God, this is going to go well.
Oh, the electrical grid, man. We fucking went on a huge tangent. The other part that you brought up was how it's all outdated and shit.
Oh, yeah. I was like, bring this way back.
Yeah, we're going way back. I just remembered it. Which is true. It is true that it's outdated. So most places, I think most places run on 72, 12, 470, right? Like I just said, 7200 phase to ground, 12,470 phase to phase, right? Which is a good voltage for distribution. It can handle a lot. It's really durable. It's not going to blow a lot of shit up. But the reason why in Houston we have a lot of 19.9 phase to ground 19.920 and phase to phase 34.5 34,500 volts, right? The reason why we have that is because 12,470 can't handle the load that we're asking. Now, Houston's a big ass city, and when they build neighborhoods, they build neighborhoods. Like I'm talking about, it
Right.
takes 20 minutes to drive through this motherfucker. So we had to step the voltage up to handle the load. So yes, the electrical system is outdated to a point, but that's why we do, conversions to a higher voltage. It's also, falling apart, which is true. But so your truck right now, what
About to fall
happen?
apart.
What happens if you get a flat tire?
Fix it.
Yeah, you replace the tire. If it, whatever, you fix it or replace the tire. What happens if your tail light burns out? Replace the tail light bulb. It's like that. You got this span of wire. The wire burns down. What do? You splice it back together. Okay, now you got a splice right here. That transformer blows up. What do? You replace that transformer. Now you got a new transformer to splice. If you drive around and you actually look at the electrical system we got, you'll see all kinds of splices and shit everywhere. Because it's all held together. If the wire burns down in the middle of like you have a sectional line that's like 20 poles, and the wire burns down in the middle, you're not going to run a whole new conductor all the way through there. You're just going to splice it back together. So somebody asked me like a couple months back, he's like, man, I heard that the whole electrical grid is just like a patch job holding it together. And I was like, I mean, yeah, it kind of is, but that's how it works,
Right.
They do all kinds of studies on all these splices and everything like that to be like, how many splices can you have in a so many foot section of wire before it actually affects what you're dealing with. And so if you have too many, then you cut them out and you put a new piece in there. But you're still not running a whole new conductor. Instead of, just putting another splice, you might cut out 100 feet and put 100 new feet, And then to add wire like that, you still have two splices. So it is a patch job. You just fix what's broken and go back with it, But as far as outdated, I'd have to say not really.
Yeah.
God damn it. Hang on.
So, yeah, the grid. What it was saying there was like it's a lot of outdated in like bigger places than they're not bigger places, but longer places in Houston.
Well, and if you go, and that I agree, and I'll give you an example that you can go look at. So like, you'd be hard pressed to drive through Houston and find broken cross arms, and insulators that are snapped off, and the wires just hanging down. Like you'd be hard pressed to find that. But if you go and drive down the Flatville slab, tell me how many cross arm braces you find that are broken.
Yeah, I think that's what it was getting. I think that's what it was getting at more.
So
Was like
if it's not going to be large metropolitan areas, but it'll be rural areas where that is outdated. Like, I mean, we got in Old Baytown, we got plenty of copper conductors, which copper is outdated. It's a really, really good conductor, but it's soft and it breaks easy. And so, everything we use now is aluminum. These are aluminum conductors. But the copper is technically outdated. It works, so why replace it, But if you go into like rural areas, then you'll see more outdated, I would say outdated, where you're talking about like rotten poles or cross arms that are broken or something like that. Then yes. But as a whole, I would say no, because it doesn't take much to blow a fuse, So if you got like an insulator that's snapped off, so you got three phases up top and one's hanging down just swinging, right? It's only a matter of time before the wind blows hard enough that it hits the pole. And if it hits the pole, that's a path to ground. It's going to blow a line fuse or something, And so then the whatever light company that works there is going to come out and be like, okay. They're going to come out and be like, okay, why did this blow? They'll ride the line out and be like, oh, that insulator is broken. And they'll either just replace that insulator if everything's good, or they'll be like, hey, that cross arm needs to be replaced too. Then they'll replace that. Or, hey, this is a bad pole. Then they'll do a quick fix and then come back later and replace the whole pole and everything. So outdated, yes, but things break. And then it's only a matter of time before it causes a big enough problem that they're going to go fix it. So.
right. That's the thing. I think that's the thing with that is like, you see out the rural part. Like I'd be hard pressed in a metropolitan area where like it's they have full time crews like you guys. And I mean, we have full time crews out in the middle of nowhere too. But like the ability to maintain those big lines, and if you look at those big lines going across like the states that are just huge. And I mean, they go across. I mean, how old are those, and can they keep up? And I'm sure that you can give me an answer as to yes or no.
You're talking about the big old transmission lines and everything?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's transmission crews just like distribution crews where all they do is travel.
Okay.
Like they'll get a job and they'll say, "Hey, I need you to follow the Champion Crosby line," and then they'll just start at the sub and just follow it, and they'll go out there and rehab the whole thing along the way. You know, they're just replacing spacers or replacing ground rods or whatever, and they'll go and they'll rehab the whole thing, whatever they got to do. You know, so there's crews out there that just do transmission rehab work like that. Now, you know, there are plenty of times where it's going to be something's going to happen and you won't find it for a long time. But if something happens and you don't find it for a long time, it's really not that big of an issue.
Right.
You know, like just the other night, I sent you the picture of all those secondaries spliced together up on that pole.
Yeah, it looks ridiculous.
It looked like shit, is what it looked like. But how long ago did somebody do that?
Yeah.
You know, 10 years ago?
What Friday at 5 crew did that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it could have been not that, but it had like moss growing all over it too, so it's been up there for a while.
Okay.
But it's like it's a problem, but it works, you know. And how long? So it's nobody's gonna know about it. But then everything's monitored really heavily. So if you see on like transmission towers or H structures, it's got like the conductors, and then there's like one small wire. I say wire. It's pretty big, but it's on the top, and there might be two of them, or there might be one of them runs along the top, and it's clearly not as big as the other wires. That's called a shield wire or a static wire. What it's designed to do is take lightning, where the lightning will hit that, and go down there and go through the ground rods at every tower or whatever. But also a lot of times what they do, if you see what looks like telecommunications wire coming down, and it's usually like there's like a coil of it towards the bottom of the pole, what they've got inside that shield wire is fiber optic cable. And the only purpose of that fiber optic cable is for the monitoring equipment on the transmission lines. So if they're like, "Hey man, we just lost this phase. Like we're not getting anything off of a phase." Then they'll be like, "Okay," go into their little computer and be like, "Okay, it's right here. Because this piece of equipment says that we've got it. This piece says we don't got it. It's right here." You know, so while it is kind of outdated, it's like the military equipment, really. So like if you look at like a brand new fighter jet, it's got all the new bells and whistles, right? Well, look at like an A-10 Warthog. How long ago did an A-10 Warthog come out?
I don't know, but that thing is an amazing piece of machinery.
Oh, I know it. I could do a podcast all on that. Hang on.
We might. You want to hear about the A-10 Warthog and Joe's rendition of what he knows about it? Please leave a comment down below or message me on our socials so that I can find out if you want to do this by. We might do it if nobody even messages.
It entered service in 1976.
Damn.
That's when the A-10 was first brought into the Air Force. Into the Air Force. And they still use them today. Do you think it's running on 1976 technology? No. These things have been retrofitted and retrofitted and retrofitted over and over and over and over and over again. Just like the warships we have in the Navy. They've been retrofitted over and over and over and over again. The electrical grid's the same way. It's no different. Obviously, it's not, a mechanism of destruction. But you've got like an old electrical grid that's been around for forever. Obviously not forever. But what do? You don't just buy a whole new electrical grid. You don't just go build a brand new one right next to the old one. Sometimes you do, but that's more of a distribution thing. But like the transmission towers, the towers themselves are going to be up until they rust. those aren't going to go away anytime soon. So if you have issues, what do? You go rehab it. You go retrofit it with the new thing. You put bigger insulators, because I know they're playing with, like we go up to like 765 or 795 kilovolts. Over in India and China and shit, they have like a million. I was reading there's places in the U.S. where they're playing around with 1.5 million, so 1.5 million volts. Obviously, what we have now can't handle that. The insulators just aren't big enough. Well, if you want to do that, you go retrofit it. You add another conductor to the bundle, and then you put a bigger insulator on it. You're not going to go replace the whole thing. So it is outdated in a sense, but it's all been, retrofitted to keep it up to the point where it's not. You know what I mean? So I think my pit boss thing is reading somebody else's pit boss thing.
100% that happens. If there's something, if it's too close, like mine will do that too. If I'm running both my smokers or my grill and my smoker, then it will pick up both temps, which is nice because then I only have to have one timer next to me unless I'm running two different timers. But
because I thought that door was open because I looked up and it said 68 degrees, and I was like,
that'd been bad.
That's not right.
I go check that.
And then I went out there and it was fine. I opened the door and it's hot, and I was like, that's hotter than 68 degrees. I'm not stupid. And I come in here and it's flashing between 216 and 70.
Nice. What are you smoking today?
I got a rack of ribs.
Nice.
Father-in-law gave me a rub to try, so I'm using that. Try that new rub out.
All right. Well, appreciate everybody hanging out this podcast. Appreciate your guys' feedback too. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let us know what you think. Please give us feedback. Even if it's on social medias, I'll link all the socials where you can get a hold of me on different ones. Twitter. I don't use Facebook, but all the other ones you can get a hold of us on. Joe doesn't use social media, so if you have a question for him, send it to me or comment down below in the YouTube channel. He has access to that. He's our resident off the grid social media person, which is fine with me. Because if he was our marketing guy, we'd be screwed. It'd be a bunch of bearded vets that just show up and just talk about rippets.
What better thing is there to talk about, man?
So we typically stream on, if you're new to the channel, we typically stream on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. We're starting around 7, depending on Joe's work. I still stream if he's got to work, but also there's going to be a link to the Discord. That's going to be the most up-to-date on when we're going to be streaming and whatnot. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Thank you guys for listening to these conversations. Thank you to everybody who gives me feedback, either in person or over messages. I really appreciate you guys. We're taking that into account. This is the first time that I can 100% say that the audio should have been great for the whole podcast, because I think we've worked out all the bugs. I think this is podcast 5, and we finally got the bugs figured out. So I'll let you finish up. Got any final thoughts, closing thoughts on this?
No, I think you summed it up pretty good. As you guys could probably tell, I could talk about the electric grid all day long. This is what I do. That's what I do for a job. So I could talk about it all day long. So, but appreciate you guys hanging out and listening to me rant and ramble, green energy, all kinds of stuff. We'll put out the last podcast is going to be late. It's going to come out right before this one, just because of my work and everything like that. So appreciate you guys bearing with us, and you guys can listen to us again for the next one in a week.
Yeah, we'll get back on to more of a regular schedule once a week. It just, obviously, guys, when you're listening to these, remember that this isn't our full-time job. So if things happen or we get busy and stopped up at work or whatever, and we can't really get to doing filming, we'll try to make more time for it. But typically, I like to keep this feel of a Sunday morning, first thing in the morning, fresh on our mind, coffee going, kind of thing. And I think a lot of you guys are giving feedback how you like that, because you can sit there and just feel like you're part of the conversation. Now, please do become part of the conversation and let me know what you would love for us to talk about. Also, if you'd like to see anybody in particular as a guest on the show, if you guys have recommendations, we're gonna be looking into that later. But
obviously, it's got to be pretty small.
Yeah.
Don't tell me you want Joe Rogan on here.
I mean, if you can swing Joe Rogan coming in here, I will make a spot on this screen for Joe Rogan. But
Joe Rogan, if you hear this, I will smoke you up any kind of ribs or whatever you want, and you can come stay with me.
There's our shameless plug for trying to get Joe Rogan.
My wife can stay in the spare room, man. Me and you'll shack up.
Okay. And on that note, thank you guys for hanging out. We will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for listening to Your Logic Sunday Morning Podcast.
Yeah. See ya.